You are listening to our last story of the month for November. Welcome to the Clarkesworld Magazine podcast with your host and narrator, Kate Baker. We've made it to the last story for issue 218. I want to thank you for your ongoing support. You have made this issue possible, and your support will make future issues possible. So, I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to do what I love to do, which is tell you stories from these amazing authors. If you haven't yet subscribed or gone to patreon.com/Clarkesworld, I implore you to do so. Your support is what allows us to pay the authors, the artist, the nonfiction, do the podcast, and put this whole thing together each and every month. Our last story for the month is titled Unquiet Graves and is by Michael Swanwick. Michael Swanwick has been writing for over 40 years, during which time he published 11 novels, over 150 stories, and countless works of flash fiction. He has received the Nebula, Theodore Sturgeon, and World Fantasy Awards, as well as 5 Hugo Awards. He is best known for the Nebula-winning science fiction novel Stations of the Tide, and for his Iron Dragon fantasy trilogy. Swanwick lives in Philadelphia with his wife, Marianne Porter. And Swanwick is no stranger here to Clarkesworld. He's got tons of other stories here. We've got Timothy and Oral History, The Last Days of Old Night, Artificial People, For Have Lain Me Down on the Stone of Loneliness and I'll Not Be Back Again, and Ancient Engines. So I encourage you, if you like what you hear, to go back and listen or read some of the others. So with that said, my dear listener, I hope that you can sit back, relax, and let me tell you a story. The wind doth blow today, my love, and a few small drops of rain. I never had but one true love. In cold grave she was lain. Anon. George Massey drove up the twisty roads of Granite Hill Cemetery with a fresh new body in the trunk of his e-car. At the foot of the hill, the oldest graves, slate and sandstone, softened by centuries of rain, dated back to colonial times. The stones grew larger with altitude, climaxing in Victorian mausoleums, large enough for a man to live in, rows of granite obelisks, and ponderous memorials topped by weeping angels or draped urns. They were carved with names and dates and, very rarely, a pious sentiment that revealed nothing about the person buried there. He didn't bother stopping to read any of them. Here, the dead never spoke, and what he needed to hear, no living soul could tell him. He parked at the highest point of the cemetery and got out. From this vantage, he could look down on all of Port Hebron and a slice of the moon-silvered Montawagan that was the reason for his existence. His entire life was encoded in the circuitry of its streets. Down there behind the firehouse was where he had smoked his first cigarette, and over in the scrub woods by a bend in the river was the unofficial lover's lane where he had lost his virginity. Lost? Thrown scornfully away. 3 days after getting his driver's license. Over by the high school was Township Park, where one strange and wonderful evening, he and Jenny had sat on the playground swings talking as dusk turned into night, and then kissed for the very first time. At the thought, Massey turned away and started walking downhill. He wanted the exercise, and he could always summon his car when he needed it. The obelisks and mausoleums grew fewer and the gravestones less grandiose as he descended into the 20th century and beyond. His handheld beeped. Cerebral stent, it said aloud, then stomach cuff, titanium alloy hip, ID chip, Herbert Vanderschot. Massey paused to read the grave. Herbert V.B. Vanderschot, Jr. January 14th, 1956, December 22nd, through December 22nd, 2041. Herbert had died in his 80s, so the chip had probably been implanted to help recover him if he wandered away from assisted living. Massey walked on. Immunocompromised, do not perform surgery without downloading specifications and directives, his handheld said. And a little farther, served in the United States Marine Corps, Lance Corporal, honorable discharge, veteran of the First Brazilian War, Purple Heart. Then, This individual has been genetically optimized. Physical responses acceptable for unoptimized patients may indicate serious impairment. Voices murmuring about him, Massey descended through a stratum of cemetery where every last corpse retained a complete medical history, which he could read if he wanted to. He did not want to. The stone monuments gave way to repurposed metals and multicolored replastics. Blue-green foxfire flickered before some, and faint spirit lights came and went above others. That had been a fashion of the times. In cemeteries less conservatively regulated than Granite Hill, the equivalent sections flashed and sparkled like knee-high Times Squares. Massey stopped by a familiar stone and tapped on his device. Who dares summon me from the vasty depths of hell? Oh, who so cruel as to torment this damned soul with memories of life and chances forever lost? He couldn't help smiling. You always make that same joke, Dad. Because it's timeless, son. The best jokes are always a little corny. Also, I should have splurged for a top-of-the-line personality bead. This one's kind of limited. You've got all the personality in the world, Pops. As if that were a compliment. All kidding aside, I may be a pale shadow of the man I was when I was alive, but I'm not stupid. You've been dropping by pretty much every night, let me guess. On your way to see Jenny. Yeah, I have some things to go over with her. How's that going for you? Nah, not so hot. We weren't getting along very well toward the end. I know. I was there. Upload me onto your handheld, kiddo. Maybe I can help. I know stuff you don't. Dad, I'm good. You know what Einstein said. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. I don't know what you're up to, but it's obviously not working. Give me a chance. Massey hesitated and snapped. Sure, fine, whatever. He waved the handheld at his father's grave and crammed it back in his pocket. Anyway, he muttered, tonight I brought the body. As they walked downhill, Massey's father shared monologues from the memorials they passed. I died a virgin. My parents thought that was important. I don't know why. I asked them once and they never visited my grave again. I got good grades in school. I liked playing Hen Quest and Unicorn Valley, but can you keep a secret? Boy band was my rave. Sometimes I think about all the stuff I missed out on. Then, he was my life, my love, my everything. I outlived him by 30 years and forgot his name long before I died. I begged and begged, but my bastard children wouldn't pay for the upgrade that would restore my memories of him. May they rot in hell forever for that. Then, I led a quiet, inoffensive life. Perhaps that's why, as I lay dying, I regretted every second of it. Dad, this is depressing the heck out of me. Of all sad words in tongue and pen, the saddest are these. It might have been. John Greenleaf Whittier. Don't let that happen to you. Get out there and grab life by the horns. That's what I'm doing right now. In a cemetery at night when you could be out dancing? Or, I don't know, boosting cars? Don't answer that. We've arrived. There's her grave. They came to a modest stone marker reading Genevieve Green Massey. For a long moment, Massey stood silent before it, composing himself, readying his arguments. He threw his head back to take in the starry sky above and the trees silhouetted black before it. When the moment felt ripe, Well, if you're not going to speak, I will. Hello, Jenny. Second, Daddy. What a pleasant surprise. What's your life like? Did you ever get that boat you wanted? Still driving the girls mad? Tell me everything. I'm dead. The old ticker gave out a couple months after you died. Oh, I'm so sorry. Don't be. We're all headed toward that same destination and more arriving every day. Also, as you know, being dead's not all that bad. The grave's a fine and private place, even if none do here embrace. Except teenagers. They're the bane of my existence. You'd think my plot was the only patch of grass in the state, the way they... Massey said. There was a moment's startled silence. Oh. You brought George. I had no choice. He's the one with the gizmo. I'll tell you what, though. It's kind of a kick getting into the new section of the cemetery, hearing stories I haven't heard 1,000 times before. It reminds me of all the times I spent in dive bars listening to a broken down old lushes ramble on. A rush of wind ran up the hillside, accompanied by a brief spatter of rain. Then all was still again. Listen to that, Jenny said. I miss rain so much. Are the first drops still accompanied by a touch of cold air? Does the smell of earth still rise up to your nostrils? Is there just the slightest tension in the air, almost like a tingle of electricity? Oh, there's only one way to find out, Massey said. George, no. Stop. We've already talked this to death. It's not going to happen. I made my choice, and that's that. If you'd only listen to reason, we could... Cut. Time out, Massey's father cried. Retreat to your corners and don't come back out fighting until you've told the baffled old dead guy what it is you're talking about. Massey looked down at his wife's grave, up at the sky, back down again. He took a deep breath. I guess the best way to explain it is to show you. He summoned his car. When it slid to a stop before him, he told it to open the trunk. The body within was female, young, pretty. It wore sneakers, jeans, t-shirt, and a light jacket. It's a cherry, he said, for factory new, never been ridden. With a touch of bitterness, he said, nothing but the best for my sweetie. Son, not that it bothers me ethically, scandalous old reprobate that I am. I mean, look at my life. But what you're obviously planning to do is very, very illegal. You should take that into account. You get one shot at resurrection immediately after you die, and if you opt out, that's it. Jenny made her choice. How are you going to explain her being back again? The body climbed out of the car and came to stand by Massey, perfectly expressionless. He patted its cheek. Look at this face. It's nothing like Jenny's. I'll just tell everyone I got a new girlfriend. We can take up where we left off. Dream on, George. I like being dead. It's quiet, peaceful, drama-free. Everything that being married to you wasn't. Who are you to drag me back? I'm the guy who took big risks getting this body for you. It cost me a bundle. I had to dodge the feds, and that wasn't easy. I worked nights to pay for it all. And you know why? Because I love you, that's why. Love. You wouldn't know love if it bit you on the butt. I had this argument with you how many times when I was alive? The hell with it. Just go away. As happened every time they talked, Massey felt anger rising up, white hot within him. Always before, it had ended with him slamming into the car and driving away. Tonight, however, he was determined to embrace it and make it work for him. You always say that, but you know what? I'm not asking your permission anymore. Son, you're making a big mistake here. I've done my best to protect you, but shut up, Dad. Massey jabbed an access code into his handheld and launched a capture and install app that had cost him dearly on the blacknet. The body standing beside him threw back its head and took a convulsive gasp of air as Jenny's persona was slammed into place. Don't talk. Standing behind Jenny, Massey gripped her shoulders with both hands. Just listen to your senses. What do you see? What do you smell and hear? I see the moon. It's so bright. Wisps of clouds turned white as they crept by it, darkened as they left. I can smell the leaves starting to change and fall and turn to mulch. Listen, that sound in the distance, a train whistle, or is it a werewolf howling? Maybe it's a lost soul being hauled down to eternal damnation, screaming all the way. That's my little girl. You were dead so long you forgot how much you love life, but I knew that once you got a taste of it again. Jenny turned to face Massey. Smiling, she punched him hard in the stomach. He doubled over in pain. When he could speak again, Massey said, "What the hell was that for?" Eyes blazing, Jenny said, "This is my body now? Well, you put something inside it after I explicitly told you not to. I call that a violation of my autonomy. What do you call it?" "I call it love. God damn it, love." In your mouth, they're the same thing. Kids, let's keep this civil. Civil. All right, civil, I can do that. Jenny slapped Massey's hand so hard it stung. Oh, look, you dropped your handheld. She stooped to retrieve it. What kind of idiot game are you playing now? Massey went to take the device back, but Jenny fended him off with her free arm. I think with an entire new life at stake, you'd take this a little more seriously. Where's the menu on this thing? Jenny ran a finger down the screen and tapped twice. "Hey," Massey said. "What's the matter? Can't move? Aw, poor little baby." "God damn it, Jenny. This isn't funny. I don't know how you did this, but as soon as I can move again, I'm gonna..." She touched the screen, closed her eyes. Sweet, sweet silence. Long minutes passed. A gust of wind sent leaves raining down from the trees, making a soft sound when they hit the ground, like playing cards falling on a felted poker table. In the stillness that followed, the air felt cooler. Unmuting Massey, Jenny said, "Okay, now you understand the rules. Keep a polite tongue in your mouth and you'll get the answers you want." "What's going on? I don't understand." "You never told him, did you, Popsy?" "I couldn't. You have no idea what George was like after the accident. Hysterical and capable of moving on. The grief counselor and I agreed that the best course of action was selective memory editing. We three had a little chat and he agreed to sign off on it." "I'm not following any of this. Dad, what are you saying?" "Son, Jenny wasn't alone in the car when she died." Massey tried to clench his hands, but could not. "Oh, right. Of course. God damn it, I knew she was seeing somebody. You slut, I knew you were cheating on me." "No, I wasn't. The other person in the car was you." "Jenny, honey, are you sure you want to tell him this?" "I do. Listen to me, George. We were arguing when you grabbed my arm and dragged me to the car. We were arguing when you hit the freeway at twice the speed limit. That was when I told you that anything was better than staying with you. You turned to look at me and your face, I can't describe it. It was a demon face. You said you'd see me dead before you let me go. Then you slammed the wheel over hard and drove us into that bridge embankment." "I don't believe a word of this. It's not possible. I would never do anything to hurt you. Never." "Popsy, you know more about this device than I do. Can you unblock his memories?" The old man sighed. "Yeah, will do." It was like God had reached down and flicked a switch in Massey's brain. He remembered everything. Every bitter word of the argument that had begun as a lunchtime discussion at the kitchen about where they should go on vacation. Something as trivial as that. But there had been a lot of resentment on both sides that had been building up over the years of silence, and once they started picking at them, everything came unraveled. Jenny had called him overbearing and controlling. He had called her a selfish bitch. Things went downhill from there. Until finally Massey knew he had to get out of the house and breathe some fresh air. But he couldn't bear to give Jenny the last word, so he had grabbed her wrist and pulled her after him. When he threw her into the car, he had no idea where he thought he was taking her. Nowhere, probably, just away. And then he began to cry. Jenny studied him without sympathy. "You get it now? You've been dead all along. You're just a ghost in a borrowed body like me. Only I didn't want this, and you did." She looked up at the moon. It made Massey's heart ache to see how its light silvered her face. She looked pure and ethereal. "I remember my relief when I realized I was about to die, then my disappointment when the crash team brought me back again. Death had solved all my problems. When they told me I got to choose whether to live or not, I was filled with joy. Yes, I said, 'Death, please.'" "Oh, God," Massey said. Oh, God. Oh, God." He took a deep breath. "This has got to be the worst moment in my life, and I can't even find the words to... Dad, you've always got a quotation for everything. Help me out." "Why? This is hell, or am I out of it?" Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus. "Yeah, that's good. What you said, that'll do, thanks." To Jenny, he said, "What now?" "Now, I'm going back to my nice quiet grave. I'm afraid, however, that I can't leave you wandering about, coming up with who knows what goofball notions to lure me back to the land of the living. Your judgment's not very good, so I'm going to have to erase you from your artificial body." "Baby girl, are you sure?" Massey's father asked. I am. With the old man's help, Jenny's thumb wandered over the handheld, tapping here and there. Any last words? Forlorn, Massey shook his head. Everything went black. Afterward, Jenny transferred Massey's father into the male body, and he transferred her back into her gravestone. I'm sorry you had to be there when George died again, she said. I wish he hadn't gotten you involved. Clouds covered the moon. The night was as dark as could be. I was never his father, after all, not really. I'm just a self-aware program based on the old guy's personality. So, I'm settled. What are you going to do? Well, I got this body, George's car, his house, his property, his bank account. That'll do me until I get my business going. You're starting a business? What will you do? I'll take a long walk through every cemetery I can find, looking for those with unfinished business. Some of them I'll take into the body you don't want, and some into George's. Then I'll let them do whatever they want most. Get laid, eat a pineapple pizza, kill someone who deserves it. I'll give them a night to remember. For a price, of course. It's a rare corpse that doesn't have something stashed away where their heirs couldn't get their hands on it. You're a true humanitarian, Second Daddy. If, by that, you mean a scandalous old reprobate, then yes, I am. At any rate, I expect to have one hell of a lot of fun. Goodbye, then. Good luck. Come visit me sometime? Every Halloween, the old man said. Like clockwork. Thank you for listening to all these stories we've brought to you in issue 218. 219 shortly comes your way. I do hope you can come and listen to those as well. And until then, my dear listener, I bid you a very fond and hopefully very temporary farewell.